God's word is perfect, and his Spirit guided men to write down his exact words, but sometimes things got lost in translation. As a result, some places appear to contain contradictions. One particular book, the Gospel of Matthew, appears to contain several contradictions until you look into the original Hebrew. Nearly every English translation of the Gospel of Matthew has been translated from Greek or Latin, because translators at the time didn't have access to the Hebrew version of the Gospel of Matthew. Many of the early church writings even mention that Matthew's Gospel was originally written in Hebrew. Matthew 1:17 states that there are 14 generations from the exile to Christ, but if one counts the families in verses 12 through 16, one will only see 13 generations. Husband of Mary in the original Hebrew reads father of Mary, thus making 14 generations. Many Jews love to point out an apparent error in chapter 2 verse 23, because none of the prophets ever said that the Messiah will be a Nazarene. The Hebrew Matthew says he will be called a Netzer, which means root or offshoot branch, which is what the prophet Isaiah prophesied. In Matthew 5:34 of the Hebrew Matthew, Jesus commands us not to swear falsely at all. English from Greek translations have Jesus telling us not to make oaths which would contradict the Torah, and the Messiah would never do that. In Matthew 23:3, Jesus appears to be telling us to obey the same religious leaders that he has been chastising and calling blind guides. This would mean that we would have to follow their rabbinic traditions, which Jesus purposely broke again and again. In the Hebrew Matthew, Jesus tells us to obey Moses and do everything Moses tells us, which is consistent with Jesus' message for us to walk in obedience to the scriptures, not the traditions of men.